Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS slate breakdown for Monday, June 23rd. We have a nice slate on tap today, and I'm your host, Tyler Wiemann. I'm going to take you through today's slate, but we will start with the perfect lineups and the winning lineups from yesterday before we get to pitchers to consider and lastly stacks. Now, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to all we do, the props, the DFS. You get it all for one low price. Now, let's dive in. Let's check out our perfect lineups and then get to the winning lineups. So, perfect lineup on DraftKings. We had Bassett. We had Abbott. Both the pitchers got it done. 4-man Seattle stack. 2-man Minnesota. Xavier Edwards. Seiya Suzuki as one-offs. And if you remember, it was Seattle versus the Cubs. So there was 5 guys in the perfect lineup from that one game. Winning lineup went to BK Ryder, 233.05. They had Abbott. They had Bassett. They stacked this game big time. We had a 5-man Seattle stack, 2-man Cubs, and a one-off from McClain. So congrats to BK Ryder. Now, on to FanDuel. We had Bassett. We had a 2-man Milwaukee, 3-man Seattle, 1-man Cub, with 1 Buxton and 1 Edwards to round it out. So we 3-2 and 4 one-offs. And on FanDuel, the winning lineup went to Whoopsie 17, who just accidentally won $10K. They had Bassett. They had that Seattle stack. Then one-off, our Braves stack, and then one-offs from McClain and Wynn. Now, let's dive in. Let's get into today's slate and see what we can uncover. Our highest owned pitcher on DraftKings for tonight is Spencer Swellenbach, 28% owned. Swelly's been just an absolute stud this year. 3.35 ERA, 2.8 over the last month. But doesn't tell the whole story. His FIP, 3.57 over the last 20, 2.93 over the last 5, and his K rate has jumped up to 31% over that last 5. Dude has been absolutely slinging it. Now he's in a tough spot versus the Mets, but I don't mind a little bit. He's done well versus the Mets in the past. Had 19 versus them earlier this year. Had a 41-point outing last year versus them. That was the Soto-less Mets. So a little bit different, but all in all, he's in a good spot. Now, there's definitely some home run type weather in New York. Winds are blowing out to left. It's super warm. The ball could travel. The good thing, though, for the Braves, Swellenbach, 42% ground balls. So maybe a little harder to get under the ball against Swellenbach. All in all, I'm fine. This I don't mind if I have some. This pitching slate is just a tough one. There's not a ton of guys I have much interest in. Next, we got Brian Wu, 9,600 versus the Twins. We have an 8.5 game total, one of the lower ones on the slate. He has a 3.9 FIP over his last 20, 4.98 over his last 5. He has been decent. Had a big game last time out versus Boston, 7 Ks, 86 pitches. 7 innings, 6 Ks, 86 pitches, no earned runs. And he's versus the Twins here. While he is averaging almost 31% less fantasy points away, I don't mind going here a little bit. But the Twins have been slugging. Buxton has been on absolute fire. And it's another spot that doesn't feel real comfy. You know, you go Wu, you go Swellenbach, you're in a tough matchup either way. Both guys are interesting. Swellenbach is not as good away, though. Wu is not as good away. So that does definitely scare me a bit. Next, we got Chad Patrick, 8,600, 24% owned. He is versus the Pirates. Patrick's been solid, 3.78 FIP over his last 20, a 22% K rate. 4.07 FIP over the last 5 with a 27%. K rate's up there. He is priced up a bit on this slate. But it is one of the better matchups as far as the higher owned pitchers. I'm absolutely fine going to Patrick. I'm probably going to get some of him at 8,600. He's definitely interesting. Next, we got Bailey Ober 7,600. I can't talk. 18% owned versus Seattle. Look, Seattle is coming off a series where they just played in Wrigley in home run weather. Every game was warm. Every game winds were blown out. Now they're going to Minnesota, and it's going to be a little bit different. Ober, while he hasn't been good lately, 6.62 FIP and 15% K rate over the last 5. Over the last 20, he's at a 4.47 K rate and a FIP and a 21% K rate. We know there is upside with him. When he is dealing, he can get you mid-20s into the 30s. And so that is, in the range of outcomes, and he's been good versus Seattle in the past. 217 average, 52 plate attempts, super low ISO, 25% K rate. I think Ober is going to go a little overlooked, and I don't mind some of him at 7,600. I think it's an interesting spot. I will note that he is averaging 23.6% less fantasy points while home. So that's a bummer for him, but all in all, it's a decent spot. All right. Now, after those 4, pitching is rough, and the only guy there's 2 guys I really want to highlight, but one of them is Erod. He's 7,300. He is versus the White Sox. The wind is blowing more right to left, or more across the field than in or out, but it is a little bit in. But the moral of the story here is the White Sox just have not been very good versus lefties. 32% K rate, 268 WOBA, 111, 117 ISO. It just some low numbers. The last 20 doesn't look great. The last 150 doesn't look great. And Erod has some upside. We've seen him get to that mid-20s this season. Years prior, he's lived in that range, and I don't mind going here, especially if he's going low owned on the slate. Now the temps are warm. We got a game total of 9. The thing that I like the most about this spot, though, is the White Sox somehow are going to be high owned. There are 3 White Sox hitters in like the top 8 of highest owned hitters, highest owned offense. So I love the leverage I'm getting here, and he can easily come out with one of these, 5-inning, 9K, 1-earned run type performances, and shut down the White Sox. So absolutely interested in there. Also, we got to talk about Ben Brown, 7,700 versus the Cardinals. Look, it's great hitting weather in St. Louis, but Ben Brown, 3.5 FIP over the last 20, over the last 5, mid-20s K rate. There's definitely upside versus this Cardinals offense. Now, Cardinals offense been hitting righties decently here, so it's not like it's a great matchup, but on this slate, it is a decent matchup at, a good price. He has solid upside, absolutely fine going some Ben Brown. And really, that's all I want to talk about for pitching. There's not a ton of options I like on this slate. It is one you can get it a little different, I think, if you want. All right, on FanDuel, highest owned over here, we got Chad Patrick, Swollenbach, and Woo. Those are the 3 highest. They should be the 3 highest owned, but I do think you need to consider Ben Brown, Eduardo Rodriguez on this slate. Erod I already talked about. Ben Brown I talked about. Ober at 7,500. The upside is there to absolutely consider him. I don't mind some of him. You could definitely get him putting up a 40 burger at 7,500 and be the guy you needed. Mitchell Parker has been so boom bust, but I'm not going there because he has been so much worse away. 62% less fantasy points away. And if you look at the games where he's got blown up, it has consistently been away. Now, it's been Seattle, Arizona, Atlanta, Cincinnati. He did decent versus Pitt. Got blown up a little bit versus Miami. So he's faced decent opponents away. But all in all, I'm a little scared to take him away. Now, Padres haven't been good versus lefties, so it is a little interesting, and there is the path for him to have some success. But all in all, it's not one of my favorite ones. Now, let's get into some stacks, round it out, see what we can get here. Our highest owned stacks of the day, we got Yankees and Cincinnati popping up. Look, this Cincinnati weather game makes all the sense as far as why people are going here. It is in the 90s. The wind's very light. This ball should carry at Great American Small Park. It's humid. Makes a ton of sense that both New York and Cincinnati are high owned on this slate. Lodolo, he's fine, but he's been worse at home, and he has a 5.17 FIP over his last 5. Allen Winans, no idea what we're going to get here from him. Cincinnati makes a ton of sense in that spot. Our highest projected, we got New York, Cincinnati, and Arizona versus Shane Smith. Shane Smith has been decent, 3.65 FIP over his career here, and temps are warm, but all in all, I don't mind getting to some Arizona. That bullpen behind Smith isn't great. Makes some sense. Highest value, we got White Sox all over it versus Erod. I personally, maybe I'm going on a limb here because nobody wants to go Erod, but I will be taking that Erod leverage over the White Sox stacks. I'm going to have a little White Sox. I think the value is there, and Erod hasn't been great. So it makes some sense to have some, but I prefer the pitcher in this situation. Highest ceiling, we got Mets versus Schwellenbach. I have a hard time wanting to pick on Schwellenbach, but we do have hitting weather. Crazier things have happened. If, the ball isn't getting down as well as normal for Schwellenbach, it could be a home run derby, so makes some sense. Seattle versus Ober. Ober's boom bust. Seattle's been hitting well, makes some sense there. Milwaukee versus Ashcraft. He's just like an opener, and Pittsburgh's bullpen isn't great, so makes some sense. Highest leverage, we got Minnesota versus Brian Wu. While Brian Wu is a very good pitcher, he is much worse away. Don't mind stacking against him away a little bit, but my warning is that Seattle bullpen is very good, so it might be hard to get one of those huge blow-up games. Now we click the teams tab, see what we got. Yankees at 5.2, Arizona 4.8, Cincinnati at 4.8. Those are probably the clear 3 top stacks. But we have Milwaukee, San Diego at 4.7. San Diego is interesting. They haven't been hitting all that well, but Mitchell Parker's been giving it up on the road. High hard contact, high average exit velocity. Bullpen behind him is terrible. Boston in a great spot versus the Angels in a park that plays up for home runs. And Jack hasn't been a good pitcher. 5.33 FIP. 5.99 over the last 5. High hard contact, high average exit velocity. Bullpen is terrible. Makes a ton of sense to want some Boston, where in a spot where if we didn't have this Cincinnati game, Boston would probably be one of the higher owned ones. Cubs, great hitting weather, but Liberatore has been solid. Not a guy I really love to stack against, but you can if you want. And if we go down, we got the Angels versus Bueller. Makes some sense to stack him. Makes sense to stack some Seattle. Outside of that, there's the White Sox. Don't totally love that. But Washington, I think you can try to pick on Kolek a little bit. He's been solid, but he can give up the big hit, and Washington has a couple guys that can really sling it. So that'll do it for us today. Just to run down on my favorite stacks real quick. We got Boston. Obviously, Cincinnati and New York and Arizona is in there. Very interested in Padres. Very interested in Seattle. That'll do it for us today, guys. Hope you guys have a good one. We'll be back with more tomorrow. Peace.